What happens when a border built to stop militants ends up strangling trade, splitting families, and still not ending the violence? Today we unpack the Pakistan-Afghanistan conflict in 2025 with numbers, not noise, who is doing what, why it's happening, and what the data says about what comes next. October 2025, after the deadliest clashes in years, Islamabad and Kabul agreed to a 48-hour ceasefire mediated in Doha. According to Reuters, Pakistan tied the truce to a clear condition: the Taliban must prevent cross-border attacks from Afghan soil, while both sides halt incursions and support to hostile groups. According to AP, the fighting left dozens dead and hundreds injured, with border crossings shut and civilians caught in the middle. Why this matters: ceasefires are promises. They only hold if incentives do. The key clause, no incursions, no support to groups, is designed to solve a trust problem. If attacks don't fall measurably within weeks, the promise is weak. According to Al Jazeera, Kabul ordered its forces to honor the truce but warned it would respond if violated. That signals fragility. Since 2016, Pakistan's conflict curve fell and then surged again. According to the South Asia Terrorism Portal, SATP, total fatalities rose from 1,513, 2023, to 2,236, 2024, and 2,945 by the 14th of October 2025, a three-year climb that reverses the 2015 to 2020 declines. According to the Center for Research and Security Studies, CRSS, 2024 was the deadliest year for security forces in almost a decade, with 685 personnel killed, nearly 7 deaths per day on average. And according to Pakistan's Institute for Conflict and Security Studies, PICS, March 2025 alone saw 105 militant attacks, the highest monthly count since 2014. So the escalation is real, not rhetorical. The question is, what's driving it? A. Sanctuary dynamics. Islamabad argues the TTP uses Afghan territory to stage attacks. Kabul denies harboring them. According to Reuters, Pakistan framed the ceasefire's success on the Taliban's ability to prevent such incursions. That turns a battlefield problem into an enforcement problem. If Kabul can't, or won't, police certain networks, the truce is a timer, not a solution. B. The border and its fence. Since 2017, Pakistan fenced most of the Durand Line. According to the Afghanistan Analysts Network, the project is almost complete and has physically split cross-border communities, pushing everyday travel and smuggling into riskier, more corrupt channels. A fence can reduce random crossings, it can also create choke points for bribery and new routes for determined actors. That substitution effect explains why a completed fence coexists with persistent infiltration claims. C. Counterinsurgency doctrine. Islamabad launched Azm-e-Istehkam in June 2024. According to the Prime Minister's office, it is a re-energized multi-agency campaign, not a large-scale kinetic operation like earlier offensives. According to Al Jazeera, the move aimed to break the post-2021 surge in violence. The design choice, networked, nationwide disruption instead of massive displacements, limits blowback, but it can be slow to show visible wins if sanctuaries persist across the border. The human ledger, forced returns and civilians policy has people attached. According to the United Nations, in Afghanistan, 986,268 Afghans had returned from Pakistan by the 26th of April 2025, 61% were under 18 and 17% were women-headed households. That's a child-heavy, high-vulnerability flow that strains reception hubs like Spin Boldak and Torkham exactly when clashes and closures spike. A ceasefire that doesn't stabilize crossings magnifies humanitarian risk even if front lines fall quiet. The rupee and the rial, the border economy closures are not just cues, they're daily losses. According to Pakistani news channel Geo, when Torkham shut in early March, nearly 10,000 people a day were blocked and trade losses hit $12 million within 4 days. According to Profit by Pakistan Today, by day 22 the cumulative loss reached roughly $60 million, with 5,000 plus trucks stranded. That's about $2.70 to 3.0 million lost per day, not counting spoilage, demurrage, and informal fees that rise during standoffs. According to Reuters, clashes at Torkham in early March also disrupted Ramadan critical food imports into Afghanistan. Zoom out, despite the shocks, formal trade rebounded. According to Profit, Bilateral goods trade rose 27% to $1.575 billion in July FY 2024-25 as Pakistan's exports to Afghanistan climbed 33% to $1.05 billion, even while Afghan transit trade via Pakistan fell 84% amid anti-smuggling measures. That divergence, formal exports up, transit down, shows policy can redirect flows without ending them. What actually changed in October? Two things: rules and monitoring. According to AP and the Financial Times, the Doha text commits both sides to halt hostile actions and support to armed groups, with follow-up meetings set, Istanbul later in October. According to Geo, even the 48-hour truce was extended during talks, useful, but still a stopgap. The real test is whether post-truce attack counts fall below their March to September average for at least a month. If not, we're in a frozen conflict scenario. Chapter 7, How We Should Evaluate Claims, 10:30 to 12:30 Claims of precision strikes versus civilian harm come fast. Here's a replicable way to judge them. 1. Time series test. Do PIC's monthly attack counts drop greater than or equal to 20% in the 4 weeks after the truce relative to the 4 weeks before? If yes, deterrence is working; if not, backsliding is likely. According to PICs, the 105 attack spike in March gives us a high baseline for comparison. 2. Geography test. Do the incidents cluster away from the border, implying internal adaptation, or remain border-heavy, implying cross-border dynamics persist? SAT provincial breakdowns help here. SAT 3. Humanitarian test. Do daily returnee flows stabilize at crossings, and do closures shorten? UN dashboards and trade press give hard counts. The uncomfortable contradictions, fence versus flow. The fence promised control, communities found workarounds. According to the Afghanistan Analysts Network, almost complete fencing split families and livelihoods, but it didn't erase incentives to move people and goods, it shifted them into riskier channels that authorities often can't see. That's why more fence isn't a silver bullet. Operation versus sanctuary. Azm-e-Istehkam targets networks domestically, but if staging areas and leadership sit across the line, domestic disruption hits diminishing returns. According to the PMO, Azm isn't a mass displacement operation. That's good policy design, but it depends on cross-border enforcement that Pakistan alone cannot guarantee. Trade versus transit. According to Profit, exports can grow even as transit collapses. That sounds like success, until you see how closures tax both sides with multi-million-dollar losses and stranded perishable goods. A resilient border needs predictable rules, not episodic reopenings. What next? 3 data-based scenarios. 1. De-escalation. Attacks fall greater than or equal to 20% for 30 days, Torkham and Chaman stay open, trade stabilizes near $1.2 billion per half year, as multiple outlets reported for H1 2025. This needs verifiable non-support clauses and hotline-level coordination. 2. Frozen conflict. Attacks flat, ±5%, sporadic closures resume, humanitarian flows keep rising when policies tighten. Expect periodic JOGA fixes without structural change. 3. Re-escalation. If ISK or TTP cells trigger high-casualty events and retaliation crosses the border, truce terms unravel and March-style spikes recur. Monitor PICs and SAP for early warning. Closing, 1600 hours to 1700 hours. This conflict is not ancient hatreds. It's incentives, logistics, and enforcement. According to Reuters and AP, the ceasefire created rules. According to the UN and trade data, people and goods need those rules to hold. If the next month shows sustained drops in attacks and shorter border shutdowns, we'll know policy, not just promises, is working. Until then, measure everything: attacks per week, trucks moving per day, and the number of kids in those returnee lines.